Welcome back to our focus today on Central New York and the Mohawk Valley. For those of you who were with us for the first hour, you heard really an exciting overview of the region that extends really from the Finger Lakes all the way to the southern Adirondacks and out to towards the capital region, a large chunk of New York State, and the home to some really exciting innovation in the life sciences space. In this hour, I'm thrilled to spend some time with some of the leaders in the region's life science ecosphere from both the academic community as well as from the industry side of the ecosphere, and spend a little time, I hope, talking about what it means to operate in this region and ideally some ideas on ways to collaborate and connect with some of these valuable resources. I'm joined today by Daniel Jonas, who is General Counsel and Executive Vice President at ConMed Corporation, Rich Uhlig, the founder and CEO of Quadrant Biosciences, Maria Contreras, the Executive Director of the Masonic Medical Research Institute, Brian Gerling, the Executive Director of the Innovation Law Center at Syracuse University, and Dave Amberg, Vice President for Research at Upstate Medical University. I'm wondering if we can begin this conversation uh, by asking each of you to tell us a little bit about your company, your organization, and its history here in upstate New York. Dan, let's start with you.
Sure. Thanks, Win. ConMed, in some ways, is the quintessential American success story. It was started by Gene Corasanti, who was the son of an immigrant. He started manufacturing ECG electrodes around his kitchen table, actually, around 1970. I'm going to skip forward quite a bit. The company went public in 1987 with $14 million in revenue. And this past year, our revenues passed the $1 billion mark. We were started in Utica. That's where Gene lived. Currently, we sell in about 100 countries plus internationally. We have a large manufacturing presence in Utica, New York. We also have operations in Largo, Florida, and in Mexico, direct sales offices, pretty much all of Western Europe, China, South Korea, Australia, Brazil. So we've grown to be an international company, a lot of that through acquisition. But we've always had a significant presence in the Utica, New York area, and still do to this day. In terms of our products, we make surgical products for the most part. The ECG electrode line is still with us. We have branched into some more technologically advanced products for laparoscopic surgery, orthopedic surgery, and GI surgery. But the company is doing well and growing, and our most recent acquisition puts us into the foot and ankle business, a rapidly growing segment of the orthopedic business. So I hope that's a good overview. 3,800 employees worldwide. Growing. It's a challenge every day. We work in very competitive markets, but it's a very rewarding business to be in, and our presence in upstate New York is longstanding and very solid.
Thanks, Dan. Let's pivot a bit from a stalwart or a cornerstone of the region's life sciences industry to one of its fastest growing companies. Rich, tell us about Quadrant Biosciences.
Thanks so much, Win, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. This is a great organization, and happy to talk about Quadrant and Central New York in particular. Quadrant Biosciences is a company that I founded in 2015, and we've always had a focus on neuroscience. And our company was founded in response to a medical situation with one of my sons. Quadrant has evolved, and I'll break this into pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. But pre-pandemic, we were very focused on a number of large-scale health issues related to neuroscience, and those really are autism spectrum disorder, concussion injuries, and Parkinson's disease. As we came into the pandemic, Quadrant was about 32 people. We were heavily funded by the NIH for our work in autism, and privately funded by investors who saw that we were intent on doing the right thing for children and families. During the pandemic, we partnered with SUNY Upstate Medical University, and particularly with Dave Amberg, and decided to extend our capabilities to the people of New York State, and specifically designed assays and strategies to help people have confidence in their own health, have confidence in the health of those around them, and provide great tools for policymakers to make objective decisions. That resulted in us delivering over 4 million COVID tests throughout the course of the pandemic, and we still are delivering a majority of the wastewater surveillance testing in New York State to help keep an eye on this pernicious virus. As we look forward, Quadrant, and you're right, Wynn, we've gone from 32 people pre-pandemic to well over 300 at this point. Our operations are in Syracuse, New York. We're very, very fortunate to be embedded within SUNY Upstate Medical University. We also have a presence on the University of Buffalo campus. We have a behavioral health business now in Cleveland, Ohio, and we have operations in San Antonio, Texas as well. But our home is always going to be in central New York. As we look forward, we're taking a lot of the lessons that we learned during the pandemic and really applying them to our core markets. And the first one that we're really attacking is autism spectrum disorder. We're on the verge of launching the world's first virtual care network to help facilitate the early diagnosis of autism. That network will launch in less than a month in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Kentucky, and Alabama, and as quickly as we can in New York State as well, and then followed by Florida, Texas, and New Mexico. That's a business that we're really excited about, and will help facilitate ongoing work as we try to discover some of the other aspects of that disease state, and then also help fund our ongoing work in concussions and in Parkinson's disease.
Thanks, Rich. Let's turn our focus a bit to some of our academic and research partners. Brian Gerling, the Innovation Law Center at Syracuse University, not solely focused in the life sciences, but certainly a niche asset and one that has helped innovators in the life sciences region across New York State grow. I'm wondering if you could tell us a bit about that program and the work that you're doing.
Sure. Thank you, Wynn, and thank you for having me here. It's an honor to be on such an esteemed panel with my fellow colleagues here. I think I need to start with a little bit about my background to talk more about the Innovation Law Center. So I actually hail from Central New York. I went to the Syracuse University College of Law and actually was a student at the Innovation Law Center almost some 20 years ago now. After graduating, I moved to the Washington, D.C. area, primarily practicing in the patent litigation area. Moved back home here to Central New York about 5 or 6 years ago now. Consider myself the reformed litigator, and so primarily focus on the transactional side of the technology space. At the Innovation Law Center, what's pretty cool is that I was a student some 20 years ago, and now I'm running the program. So that's a fun fact, and it's pretty cool that it's come full circle. What we try to do at the Innovation Law Center is work with early stage technology companies to identify and help secure their competitive advantage in the marketplace. So what do I mean by that? So what we do from a law side is identify areas where the company can secure intellectual property. Primarily that is in the patent space. So we conduct what we call a patentability study, where we meet with the client and understand their technology, and then devise a patent search strategy around what we call prior art. So whether there's other existing patents out there or other references that may present obstacles to securing patent protection for our client's technology. Now, if it looks as if there are some obstacles in that path to patent protection, we also conduct what's called a freedom to operate study. So what is their ability to sell this technology without running the risk of infringing upon, in our case, an active US patent? So that's from a law standpoint. We kind of identify your path to patentability, and that the patents provide a monopoly to that particular patent holder to exclude all others from practicing that technology without seeking a license from the patent owner. So that's a competitive advantage there. We also work with our friends over at the Whitman School, and we are provided with MBA students who conduct a market study around that technology. So what is the market for that technology? What's the strategy for entering that market and overcoming the barriers to entry in that market? Who are the players in that market? Who are your potential licensing partners in that market? And we package that together in what I call a due diligence report that our clients can then take to a potential funder and demonstrate to them to say, hey, look, I've de-risked my idea, and here's why I'm a good investment risk. So we are very early on in the technology development stage, and I'm happy to say that we've worked with several of the folks in the companies that are represented here today.
Brian, thank you. Maria, let me turn my focus to you. The Masonic Medical Research Institute, located in Utica, I think it's fair to say for many years was a bit of a secret. You came on board, you'll correct me, but probably about 4 or 5 years at this point, and really have raised the profile of the Masonic Medical Research Institute. Tell us about your work.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Wynn, for the opportunity to be here today. It's my pleasure to talk a little bit about the Masonic Medical Research Institute. Essentially, we're a preeminent institute that's focused on trying to understand the cause and find treatments for cardiovascular disease, neurocognitive disease, and autoimmunity. Those are our real three areas of focus now as a growing institute. We were actually founded in 1958 by the state of New York Grand Lodge Freemasons. And we basically started as a premise to trying to understand ways to discover new ways to treat disease, to understand what causes disease, after the Masons had spent some time in the 1950s really helping combat rheumatic fever. Some of the work that was done earlier on was was very much on par with what we're doing now. But over the last 30 years, I would say MMRI in Utica was a very expert institution focused on a small niche in cardiovascular disease called electrophysiology. And this is what causes sudden cardiac death and cardiac arrhythmias. We were very well known in the scientific community with this very well-established component of scientific research. But in 2018, when I came on board, the goal was to really expand the scope of the work that we were doing so that we could encompass a lot more than just this one very specialized area of science. And so our primary mission has always really been to conduct high quality basic science research, really to try to understand mechanism of disease in a way to try to find ways to find treatments and cures. We also have a very large focus on education. And so we train students and scientists and technicians to really propagate the next generation of scientists in our own community. So we've now been, over the last 4 years, grown from an institution of 17 people. We're now 52. We're hoping that we'll get to over 100 people in the next 2 or 3 years. And we're basically comprised of a series of molecular biologists, chemists, computational biologists, and engineers, really focused, like I said, on these very particular areas of science. In the cardiovascular space, we're working on everything from congenital heart disease in pediatric patients to end-stage heart failure in adults. We're also doing a lot of work on COVID and trying to understand the effects of long COVID, particularly in cardiovascular health. We're working on epigenetics, things like stress that induce disease in individuals, and cardiomyopathies, which we know affects and still is the #1 cause of death in this country, COVID notwithstanding. We've expanded, I mentioned, to the neurocognitive space, so we're working on autism also very readily. We're also starting to embark work on Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, as well as PTSD. And then we're also focusing our interest in autoimmune disease, looking at lupus research, rheumatoid arthritis, and type 1 diabetes. So we have a pretty expanding and large program that's ongoing. We try to get our scientists to really foster creativity and risk-taking, open sharing of data and research. And we're seeking collaborations within our community, many of whom are here on this call. And we're looking for ways to continue to partner with our hospitals, foundations, as well as our scientific communities to continue our mission together to combat disease.
Thank you, Maria. And Dave Amberg, let me turn to you. Upstate Medical University, part of the SUNY system and the academic medical research institution here in this region. Talk to me, if you can. Your role is Vice President of Research, but in many ways, you spend a lot of your time working with private companies and looking for opportunities to collaborate. Tell me about the research endeavor at Upstate.
Yeah, so Upstate has a long history. We started as Geneva Medical College in 1834. We actually graduated the first woman medical doctor in the country in 1849, became a part of Syracuse University in the late 1800s, and then Syracuse sold us to the State University of New York in the 1950s. So we're one of the 4 biomedical campuses within the SUNY system. As a research enterprise, we have been growing over the last 8 years, the time during which I've been playing an administrative role here at Upstate. We grew in the prior fiscal year 11% in our research expenditures, and we grew we're going to grow another 11% this year in research expenditures. We have about 125 basic and translational researchers and about 250 clinical researchers. Our clinical research portfolio has been growing tremendously as well in the last few years. And so I'd say we're a vital biomedical research institution. My role here is multifold. Some of it's just compliance, which can be boring at times. But the fun parts of my job are really to think about strategy. We just completed a new research strategic plan. But also I'm very focused on partnerships, and that includes with other institutions in the region. We've been working with Maria and the Masonic Medical Research Institute with a joint seminar series and joint funded research projects. We're about to sign a large MOU with the Watson School of Engineering at Binghamton. We're putting in a proposal for high performance computing with the Cornell High Performance Computing Facility. And then of course there's our relationships with companies like Quadrant. And that's been such a tremendous rewarding success to work with Rich Uhlig and his team. And I think serves as a real example, really an appropriate and powerful relationship that you can form between industry and the academy. And I'll refer to the model as a spin-in. Very early on, we embedded Rich Uhlig and his team right with our scientists in our research buildings. And the impact of that can't be underestimated. And I would put it as simply as sitting on an elevator and seeing what the seminar series is presenting that week within the building. And that made Rich familiar with some of the technology that's being developed within our research enterprise, which has also been growing as well. Over the last 3 years, our IP disclosures have tripled. And so I really think of the role of an academic medical university can play in the biomedical innovation ecosystem and how important that can be. We were very ivory towered when I came here 6 years ago, and that is no longer the case. We've broken down the walls. We are developing relationships. I now have a dedicated director of industry relations that reports under me, Dr. Chris Neville. And so we're really trying to look at how we make ourselves friendly to industry, how we open our doors and make the expertise, the phenomenal expertise we have within the brain trust of our research faculty available to industry partners. And we're laser focused on taking what I think is a nascent biomedical innovation ecosystem that is just hitting an inflection point and to explode. And I had the opportunity to spend time in the mid 80s working in a biotech company in Seattle. I did also spend some time in the mid 80s during my postdoctoral fellowship at Stanford in Silicon Valley. I know what a nascent biomedical innovation ecosystem that is about to explode looks and feels like, and that's what we have in Central New York.
Let me pick up on that point, Dave. One of the things that, frankly, we've heard both today and in some of our prior sessions looking in other regions, and I suspect it's something that we're going to hear as we continue our tour of upstate New York. And I think this group today is very reflective of that. Individuals for whom many of you spent time in tech hubs or in other parts of the country have come to or come back to this region and found opportunities to grow life sciences and healthcare enterprises. And I'm wondering if I can put you on the spot a little bit and ask you to reflect on, is there something particular that you find in this region that has been helpful in that regard? Are there particular things that have been challenges growing either a company or a research enterprise in a place like upstate New York? Dan, ConMed is global at this point and yet has its roots in Utica. Is there something particular about the region that you found helpful?
I would say two things. When we're involved in manufacturing, certainly in Utica, we have, I want to say, in a range of 600 employees involved in manufacturing there. It's a good location in part because of the workforce and the availability. I don't think it would be cost effective for anyone to manufacture in a larger city. Like you wouldn't do what we're doing in Utica, New York City, or in Boston. It's just the cost would be unreasonable just for the real estate itself. So certainly that is helpful. The other trend that's helpful is being close to some of the universities can be useful when we're working through some of the engineering challenges that manufacturing inherently entails. So from that perspective, I think it's a workforce availability, a space. We don't use currently a large volume of water, but for some manufacturing areas, the access to water, believe it or not, is important, and that's useful in upstate New York. Not every geography offers that. And then there's a quality of life issue. One of the changes I think we've seen over the past few years is people switch to working remotely is Not everyone, speaking to my daughter, who happens to be in New York City at the moment, and she's got a 2-bedroom apartment that apparently is 400 square feet, and I'm still trying to get my head around that. But that's not really an issue you run into in upstate New York so much. So, for quality of life reasons, I think some people prefer some of the more open space, the natural outdoor beauty, and the quality of life that upstate New York can offer.
And Rich, let me turn to you. You similarly, and you talked about kind of your growing operations elsewhere in the United States, but maintain your base here in Central New York. I know you spent some time in your professional career in New York City and elsewhere, and yet have some roots in this region. What prompted you to come back?
Well, I love Central New York, and we raised our children in Central New York. I grew up in Northern New York on the St. Lawrence River, so it's a fantastic area. What has been key to our company's success is some of the elements that Dave Amberg talked about, and I do want to just say that Dave has been transformative in his approach at SUNY Upstate, and that has made SUNY Upstate a leader in so many areas. So we're thrilled to be embedded in the Upstate campus. And by the way, I think we're in 3 different buildings at this point in time. We've got 3 different laboratories that we're operating, very high-end next generation sequencing research laboratory, a CLIA/CLEP 50-state clinical laboratory, as well as an environmental laboratory, and then many of our functional operations as well. But honestly, for a company like ours that relies on a workforce that is that has a very high intellect, Central New York is ideal for us. We're surrounded, and we're located in Syracuse principally, and in Syracuse, right, alone, we've got SUNY Upstate Medical University, a premier medical university, Syracuse University, Lemoyne, OCC, and I'm sure I'm forgetting others. And then in the immediate vicinity, we have my alma mater, Cornell, but then Clarkson and Colgate, and so many other great universities for us to draw talent from as we continue to grow our business. So that's I think one of Central New York's superpowers is access to a very highly educated workforce, and finding the opportunities to keep people in Central New York has been actually fairly easy for us because the beauty of the region as well.
Let me put a bit of a twist on that, those comments, and turn to you, Maria, and Dave Amberg. Listen, as one who spends a lot of his time trying to help build the biomed industry, one of the things, candidly, that I often worry about is that some of our industry partners may decide tomorrow that they don't need to be in New York State and may choose to relocate. I spend very little time worried that Upstate Medical University will leave Syracuse, or that Syracuse University will leave, or that the Masonic Medical Research Institute will leave, which isn't to say that we should take those institutions for granted. But I'm wondering if perhaps the 3 of you representing academic and research institutions could reflect a bit on what does it mean to be in a place. You certainly all have reaches that extend beyond the region, but at the end of the day, this region is your home. What does that mean from your perspectives?
So maybe I'll go ahead and start, because I'm new to this area and I didn't grow up in this part of the country. I actually grew up in Florida, migrated north. I went to University of Florida for undergraduate. I went to Yale University for my PhD, and then Harvard for my postdoctoral fellowship, after which I was fortunate to get an opportunity to be faculty there. So I still maintain my faculty appointment at Harvard Medical School in Boston. I'm an associate professor there. And what I can tell you is that the opportunities that this region has offered far extend, I think, the layers of bureaucracy that I think we've been used to in going to institutions like that. So having access to being able to get research accomplished in a much faster, a much more technically advanced manner because you have access to the equipment, state-of-the-art science, and the technology here has been really instrumental in helping us grow. I mentioned we've grown to 52 individuals. Most of those people I plucked out of Harvard Medical School. So they're all here in Utica doing research here. And we continue to expand and grow. We've essentially circled the wagons. We've created an opportunity to have in-house technologies, including stem cell, inducible pluripotent stem cell biology. We use genome editing technologies, nanoparticle technologies, much like what we've seen with the COVID vaccine. We're doing gene therapy delivery platforms. I mean, these are the kinds of things that we were doing at Harvard with a wait list to try to get access to that equipment for months. So having that here has been really instrumental in helping us grow. In addition to the things that we heard earlier, commute times. You know, my home in Newton was 7 miles from the medical school in Boston. And depending on whether there were gas explosions or construction or Red Sox games, it would take me anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half to get to work. I'm 5 minutes literally from my home to my office. And that commute time, you know, being able to use that time more effectively in research and science has been really helpful. Most of my team also really enjoy the outdoors here, being in, you know, an area that's so conducive to hiking and swimming and fishing and all of the things that people enjoy, and a lifestyle change has been really instrumental. And same with my colleagues here. Recruiting actually in this regard has been relatively easy, and we've been advancing our recruitment now to very senior people who are looking at coming into the region, and I'm very excited about those opportunities.
Yeah, I can riff off a few of the things that's been said. I think I'm frozen on the video screen, fortunately not in an embarrassing way, but I assume you can hear me, right, Wynn?
We can hear you. You don't appear frozen to the rest of us, so so have at it, Dave.
I'm just getting self-absorbed here. That's all. Yeah, you know, I mean, like just about like everyone on the call, I moved here 7 years ago because of the quality of life that I could have, and I live, unlike Maria, I'm not 5 minutes away, but I'm 25 miles away, which is 25 minutes away, door to door, to my office and my home. And I live in a beautiful nature preserve called Labrador Hollow Unique Area. And how many places in the world can you work at a world-class biomedical research institution and own a home in a nature preserve? So quality of life is huge. And I think back on some of the other things that have been mentioned, you know, workforce. We used to really wring our hands in the region over how we were training all these great young people in research, and they're just leaving and going to Boston and San Francisco. And, you know, it just warms my heart. On Friday, I got to go into one of Rich Uhlig's Quadrant's labs in the Central New York Bioaccelerator. And I'm looking around and the faces are familiar. Upstate graduate from the PhD program, ESF graduates from their programs, and Syracuse University graduates. So things are really changing here, but I do think we need to be mindful to the workforce. If we want to expand this, we need to not only kind of increase the opportunities to pipeline into advanced degree programs, but we have a responsibility to think about equity and diversity and the power that comes with a diverse workforce in an innovation ecosystem, and create those pipelines and opportunities. You alluded, Wynn, that you stay up at night worried that we're going to lose these great companies that we're incubating. And I think you know what I'm going to say. And every time I'm given the opportunity to say this, I'm going to say it. We better be very careful and laser focused to not allow that to happen. We have a capacity problem. You heard Rich mention that he's in 3 of our research buildings. We, look at locker rooms to convert and closets, and to try and make sure that we can keep Rich and his team productive and happy. But we do have a problem in the region. We do not have enough space for our graduates of our bioaccelerator, for example, to move out to. And we better do something about that. We better do something about that quickly. Our bioaccelerator is full. We have a waiting list in that facility. These companies need to move on, and we need them to move on in Central New York. So I'm raising the flag and I'm raising the alarm. We need to bring in the developers like Boston has done and get them to recognize that the next big opportunity for them to build a biomedical innovation ecosystem is in Central New York.
And while we're talking about capacity issues and workforce issues, I'm wondering, Dan Jonas, if you can reflect from your perspective as a large manufacturer employer in this region. Certainly, the workforce challenges, especially in the manufacturing space, are a challenge that we hear from our members all the time. Talk a bit, if you will, about your workforce challenges, your issues, particularly in this region.
Well, I mean, I guess I have a more optimistic view of it. We certainly have to do onboarding and training with our our manufacturing employees, but I don't think that's that different than what we would need to do anywhere else. It's a highly specialized form of manufacturing that we have, and there's certainly some automation today, but we don't find too much of a challenge filling and maintaining employees. And certainly, I'm the wrong example. I've been with the company for 24 years coming up on August, but we regularly sort of celebrate employees who've been with the company 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years. So there are some skilled areas where we need, a particular skill set that we may have to look outside the area for on occasion, but we've been able to grow some of that talent internally. The interesting thing, I heard someone comment on diversity earlier. I think we speak, I want to say 10 different languages within our manufacturing plant. There's a relocation center in Utica with a lot of immigration from all over the world, and to translate some of our work instructions and training into multiple languages, it's the melting pot in our plant itself to see. So it's nice to see that. And beyond that, for some of the other work, I mean, people will move where the jobs are interesting. So I did not originally grow up in the upstate New York area, but I think I found an opportunity at ConMed years ago that I probably would not have found in a larger city. I've got a good background as a lawyer, but I was a litigator, and I don't know that I would have ended up as an in-house counsel somewhere else. So I think there are opportunities, and we just have to find a better way to sort of present them to the people who are out there. And I think there's reason to be optimistic about the prospects in upstate New York.
And Brian Gerling, as a guy who spends his days with innovators, with entrepreneurs, with wannabe innovators and wannabe entrepreneurs, give us a sense of the folks who come to the Innovation Law Center. What motivates them to be in this region, to be in upstate New York, and do you find any commonalities among the folks that you service?
That's a good question. We are funded by the NISTAR. So our mission at the Innovation Law Center, while housed at Syracuse University, our mission is to reach out across the state. So we work with a very diverse range of innovators and entrepreneurs, whether it's from Stony Brook or Hofstra down on Long Island, or up in Clarkson in the North Country, or folks down in Binghamton or out in Buffalo or Rochester, anywhere in between. And we really are technology agnostic, while most of our clients, if you will, do come from the medical device arena. That is in large part due to the area that we live in, which is Central New York, and the innovation that's going on in and around the medical device space, in particular the biotech accelerator that Dave alluded to, and our partner there, Kathy Durden. So we see a wide array of different types of technologies and innovators. But one thing that I find is interesting on this diversity yet commonality theme is we have international students. So we have some students from the Middle East, some students from India, some students from Korea. And what we try to do in our summer program is get some of these students to come and work at the Innovation Law Center. And then we take them around to our various partners across the state. So we've been to the Griffiths Institute and the Innovare Center out at Griffiths Park. And the innovation that's going on out there is just absolutely incredible. And we've been to Rochester with Venture Creations, and we've been to the Biotech Accelerator here in Central New York. So just seeing their eyes open up to see that the opportunity and the real innovation and high-tech companies that are here in Central New York, the expression on their face says it all. So as a native Central New Yorker, I am beyond excited to see the innovation and change and job opportunities, quite frankly, that are now available to recent college graduates or high school graduates in this area. And there is no longer this need to flock to Boston or to the West Coast to find a rewarding rewarding career.
Rich Uhlig, what's your experience in terms of recruitment, retention, talent pool in this region?
Yeah, I want to echo some of the points that were made earlier. We have a tremendous degree of optimism at Quadrant relative to our growth in Central New York. We have been able to find people that have the intellectual curiosity and the skills that we need to grow right in Central New York. And some of that is, and admittedly, our company is so laser focused on improving lives of children and families that commonality of purpose extends throughout our whole organization. Our ability to attract people, in my experience, is really unprecedented. And I think that commonality of purpose helps us attract the right people. And the people at Quadrant tend to be have very, very high IQs, but they also tend to skew toward altruism. And for whatever reason, we tend to find people with those two characteristics in Central New York. So that's been a great resource for us as we continue to grow our company. We don't see that letting up anytime soon. So we're to repeat Dan's comment about being optimistic. We're very optimistic about our abilities in Central New York.
Let me turn as well, and Maria and Dave Amberg, I'm hoping that the two of you can reflect a bit on this. We have certainly heard from both of you and frankly from others on this panel about both of you, about your abilities to have moved your institutions into a realm where you are frankly friendlier, if you will, to collaboration with industry, with outsiders. Um, Talk about, if you can, what has allowed that transformation to happen. Perhaps it's the singular focus of Maria Contreras and Dave Amberg, but I suspect that you'll tell us that there's something more going on, that there's been more of a perhaps a team or institutional change, and I'd love to know more about that. Maria, let me start with you.
So sorry, I think I disconnected for a minute. So if you don't mind just asking the question, I think I missed the beginning of that.
Of course. So the question is, what has allowed Masonic Medical Research Institute to frankly become a more public-facing institution, to become a place that is better known and is actively seeking partnerships with industry and with others? Talk about that transformation.
Sure. I mean, I think science, and I think everyone here can readily agree, is a collaborative institution. And I think these days in particular, it's very important that you have established collaborations, everything from bench to bedside. So as basic scientists, for us, it's really important to create a translational pipeline. And to be able to do that, we have to partner with our neighboring hospitals, with our colleagues at academic institutions, as well as with pharmaceutical companies and foundations. So we've done that pretty effectively over the last 4 years. I would say just locally, we've actually partnered with a number of the hospitals, in particular in the Mohawk Valley Health System, with Darlene Stromstead. During COVID, we similarly did all of the testing for the region and for the hospital so that they could stay open during that time, which was a huge endeavor by one of our investigators. We also are working very closely with Bassett healthcare systems. We're working with the Rome hospital system. And this is our way to get sort of tissue samples that will allow us to be able to continue our basic research endeavors at the MMRI. In conjunction with that, we've established collaborations with academic institutions regionally. We've been working with Dave at SUNY Upstate. We also work with Syracuse University, with Rochester, SUNY Poly, SUNY Albany, Hamilton College, University, Utica University now, and the MVCC. We recruit students for summer fellowships from all of these institutions locally and regionally so that we can build our summer fellowship program to create the next generation of STEM-based research careers in this region. On top of that, our research, because it's expanded on top of cardiology, which is what we were well known for, we've partnered with foundations in the community, including the Kelberman Center for Autism, UCP, and RCIL, so that we can partner to create not just a mechanism for getting samples and tissues from patients, but also thinking about ways that we can further the mission of trying to understand what causes some of these autism spectrum disorders, and to be able to try to figure out ways that we can work closely together to try to help those families. So it's been a huge goal for us to make sure that we stay embedded in the community. I'd say a little preemptively, what we're trying to do now is to get in the middle of downtown Utica. We're in the process. We've actually completely filled and renovated our current building. With the faculty that we've recruited. We're building another, hopefully $35 million building or so in downtown Utica, which will be right across the street or close to the hospital, so that we can create a pipeline for clinician scientist recruits to bring into the region, so that we can not only enhance our clinical medical professional community, but also our scientific community in that regard as well. So we really have a long haul ahead. We have big dreams for the region here and for the area. And I think Masonic Medical Research Institute has been what they've been calling a hidden gem for far too long. And so we're ready to be out forward facing and partner with all of our colleagues to make us all successful.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Maria, because I think for a long time it's been sort of true of at least the research part of the house. We've referred to us as a well-kept secret as well. You ask when, what's changed that makes us more of a partner in an innovation ecosystem here, and it certainly is leadership. We've had leadership change at Upstate, and Dr. Mantosh Dewan is now our president and is a very innovative and forward thinker, and really does believe in the research and development arm of the university and supports us tremendously. We also have very innovative leadership in our healthcare systems, and Dr. Robert Corona, who is a real genius behind the design of the Central New York Bio Accelerator, and is now faced with the real challenge of how you remake a healthcare system given all the challenges that are going on. And the ideas he's having and the things he's doing are just truly a blast to watch, frankly. The other thing is that this perhaps changed is a recognition of what makes you relevant to a region as an academic medical center. If you want to be able to have conversations with your elected officials and your economic development people, you better be showing them that you're making an effort to be a part of that economic system, beyond just receiving lots of federal grants to do research and translation of research projects, but really engaging and facilitating, making yourself available and helpful to industry. And we've talked a lot about collaboration, and that's something that has really changed too. We used to operate pretty independently, but now we find each other reaching out to each other frequently, industry, between academic, between research institutes like the Mmri. And I call this wiring up the super university. And it's an imperative that we do this, that we continue to do this, and that we build on those relationships. And I'll tell you why, because there's tremendous opportunities now coming from the federal government for large funding proposals. And they are not going to be handed to Upstate Medical University. They're going to be handled to consortium. So the Build Back Better bill, we put a regional proposal in through Center State CEO. We're all scrambling to meet the deadline for the NSF Regional Innovation Engines proposals, and everyone's kind of working on their own concept paper. But at the end of the day, they're going to ask us to leverage those collaborative relationships we've been working on to develop a really transformative idea to go after that $160 million prize that could really make a difference to the region. And these kinds of initiatives are going to continue. It's just in the ether right now, this recognition that the competitiveness of the country is going to require these kinds of investments. And the interesting thing about Central New York as an innovation ecosystem is the Brookings Institute report from a couple of years ago, identifying the Syracuse and Central New York region as one of the next great places that should be invested in, that's ready to become that next innovation tech hub. And so many of us are working hard to work together to realize that dream.
And in the few minutes that we have remaining, I'd like to go around and ask each of you. Some number of our audience may be interested in connecting with your organization, with your company. Here's an opportunity to give us a bit of a wish list, folks that you'd like to collaborate with, or if folks are interested in connecting with you, how best can we make that happen? Dan, at CONMED, kind of what's your radar screen heading you toward? And for folks who are interested in connecting with CONMED, what are some opportunities?
Well, I think it varies to some degree based on the area in which people are looking to connect with us on. Uh, we're a medical device company, certainly to the extent that, you know, occasionally physicians reach out directly to us, and we work extensively with groups of consultants in terms of developing and refining our products in a broad array of areas. So that's always something we're open to. Uh, we obviously have a process for that. We have an internship program, a pretty healthy internship program where we take in 30 to 50, depending on the year, interns and try to hire them into positions down the road. So it's meant to be a funnel for jobs. So if any college students are out there listening, that's a good way to get to know ConMed. And uh, we're always actively looking to fill a range of positions, running from quality manufacturing engineers to sales positions. So there is truly a war for talent going on out there in the real world. And you know, we welcome people to look at our company. It's a great place to work, a great place for a career, and you just have to go to our website to find what the opportunities are. And beyond that, I'd say feel free, if any of you run into anyone directly from ConMed, just reach out. We're a pretty small organization. It seems 3,800 employees seems like a large number, but I've met a lot of them over the years, and I can steer you in the right direction if you're looking to meet someone in particular.
Terrific. Rich Eulig, what about a Quadrant?
There's a couple of areas that I'll highlight. First of all, we have over 100 research relationships around North America, the Caribbean, and throughout Western Europe with academic and clinical research organizations. We continue to add to that. So if people want to collaborate with us, we're excited and happy to do that. Our approach has always been, and I think this is part of our success, is that we're not really interested in our piece of the pie. We're interested in building a bigger pie, right? So if we can work together to come up with solutions collaboratively faster, we're always going to do that. Secondly, as Dan mentioned, there is a talent war out there. I believe that we're one of the organizations that is winning that talent war because what we stand for and who we are as people. But we have 75 openings right now across all of our locations. So if people are interested in what we're doing, boy, we would love to have you join us.
Terrific. Brian Gerling, innovators who are interested in the services of the Innovation Law Center. How do they connect to you? How do they find you? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a somewhat of a common theme here, at least among Dave and Maria and our organization, which is, you know, we are kind of a hidden gem in this NISTAR network, and you know, we have a couple of our, you know, we've been around for 30 years, and we have a couple of our early graduates in ConMed and Quadrant Biosciences from our program. Where we worked on some of their early stage technologies, but we also have, for example, with Dave's and the biotech accelerator, Jellica Light, which is a recent had all the papers around, and it was really a success story around what we can really do when we collaborate together. At the Innovation Law Center, we worked on those early due diligence reports for them. And one of the things that our program provides is, failing fast, right? So rather than investing a lot of time, money, and effort into a project that is only going to have a patent bar it down the road, or there's just not a speed to market strategy, that's helpful to particularly early stage technology companies, or a project development team within an established company that's trying to sell the C-suite on making an investment in a particular project area. So I think that is, one area that we're instrumental in this ecosystem, in an early stage innovation ecosystem. And it's my job, and my predecessors did a great job ahead of me, but it's my job to get the word out that we are available to assist, early stage technology companies in and around New York State.
Dave at Upstate, how best to connect?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know this about me, Win. I'm kind of a bottoms up kind of guy. My door is open. Literally, if I pan my camera over, you'd see my door is open. I'm very approachable. I also have, as I mentioned, Dr. Chris Neville is our new director of industry relations. And so reach out to us. We're also about to launch an outwardly facing industry focused website as a resource for industry to engage with us. And I believe that's going to be upstateinnovate.org, I believe is going to be the URL for that. And that'll be coming soon, and that'll have great links. Our upstateresearch.org website is a great way to learn about what's going on here. In our core facilities, which we're working to make available to industry, we have instrumentation that particularly medium to small companies may not have. And we are trying to work to make those facilities available and friendly to industry. And then as far as the experts we have here at Upstate, you can find that on the upstateresearch.org website as well. We are a modest sized in the grander world, modest sized biomedical research institute. We can't be great at everything, but we're great at a number of things, and you can drill down on that on the website. There's opportunities here to engage with us and join our PhD program. We're always looking for bright minds to join our advanced degree programs. We're always looking for postdoctoral fellows in our research labs. I'm sure Maria's folks are doing that as well. Great positions, for example, clinical research coordinators. We're always looking for very rewarding jobs to bring the translation of the latest ways to treat disease to our patients and become part of a really vibrant and well-supported clinical research operation. And we're also really trying to think about, given that we have this very robust infrastructure to support clinical trials, how do we make that expertise and that platform of compliance available for small companies who need to get first in human trials going. So we're trying to make ourselves pretty friendly, we're pretty reachable, and we're open to engaging. So please give us a call.
Terrific, Dave. And Maria, last word goes to you. How can folks connect with MMRI?
Thank you. So I like my colleagues, my door is always open. Hopefully when I'm around, as you know, I'm in New Hampshire today, but I am open to positions that are available at MMRI, anywhere from staff positions in administration all the way to scientific faculty opportunities. They're on our website at mmri.edu. I encourage people to go look. In particular, I want to say that we've been looking for a director of development for a long time. So if I were to think of one job that I want to put out there right now, that's one. And we have a couple of faculty positions. When I give talks for my science, I always put those ads on the page, and I get really great applicants reaching us that way. Students, we're really excited about the summer fellowship program, which has been incredibly successful and growing. The applications are always due in February, so I encourage all of you to consider applying for a 10-week summer fellowship program at MMRI so you can hear more about the exciting research that we're doing and hopefully drive you to continue to think about staying in science. We have several fellows actually that have stayed at MMRI after they've done their summer fellowship. They graduated and they come back on as research associates at the Institute. So we're really excited to sort of foster their growth and develop their careers as they decide they're going to continue in the scientific arena.
Well, listen, this has been terrific. Maria Contreras of Masonic Medical Research Institute, Dave Amberg, Upstate Medical University, Brian Gerling, the Innovation Law Center at Syracuse University, Rich Uhlig, Quadrant Biosciences, and Dan Jonas from ConMed. I hope we've continued to keep the doors open and perhaps shown a light on some hidden gems that should be less than hidden gems. I appreciate the time that you spent with us all today, and thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.